Hello and welcome to Salisbury Cathedral's daily reflection for the 25th of March. I'm Tim Dakin, a member of the Cathedral's chapter and an honorary canon. Now there's nothing like a good old natter. A few weeks ago I found myself having such a natter with a friend of mine of some 50 years standing. I was best man at his wedding and my wife is his daughter's godmother. Well, having passed the usual pleasantries, we set about putting the world to rights. He's now the lay chair of a deanery synod in another part of the country, so our collective wisdom was brought to bear on the current state of the Church of England. Of course, if only the powers that are took any notice of our solutions, all its ills, etc., would be at an end. Its pews would be bulging, the coffers would be full, and it would have regained its public voice. Well, we spent a happy hour or so on the phone and look forward to a time when we can meet up again to continue our groundbreaking solutions to all the church's challenges, and perhaps do so over a pint or a glass of wine. During our conversation, my friend talked about how institutions like the C of E, but by no means only the C of E, have a habit of counting the things that don't count and ignoring the things that can't be counted. Well, that is a very striking phrase and one I'm more than happy to plagiarise. Counting the things that don't count and ignoring the things that can't be counted. Now, as it happens, this conversation was the afternoon before I turned up at Salisbury City Hall for my second COVID jab. Sadly, being jabbed in the cathedral was not an option, as we're not registered with one of the GP practices that used it as a vaccination hub. From the moment of arrival at the City Hall, I encountered directly 14 people. The gaggle of security guards, the welcomers and the receptionists, the stewards, the medical record keeper, the syringe loader and the jabber. Sounds like something from Star Wars. And again the stewards who saw us safely out of the building. Now what struck me was the unfailing, gentle kindness of each and every person. They didn't just fulfill their task, they did so with kindness and grace. And to someone like me who readily confesses to being needle phobic, that mattered a lot. Kindness counts, but it can't be counted. There is no measure of kindness. You can't pop to the shops and pick up a crate of kindness any more than you can order a hamper of happiness or a lorry load of love. Now, arguably, some of the most important things in life, maybe even the most important things, count because they can't be counted. Yet we seem to have a fascination with the things that can. How many bedrooms a house has, even if they're mostly never used. How big a car is and how many brake horsepower it has to get from 0 to 60 and how many of them we have. How many bank accounts we might have and how much cash is stashed away in them. Now, I wonder if anybody has ever tried to invent a system to measure and quantify kindness, with the basic unit inevitably being the kind. Each act of kindness would be measured at 1 unit. Well, you'll immediately see it instantly gets infinitely complex. There are simple acts of kindness, then there are more complex ones. There are planned acts of kindness, and then there are the random off-the-cuff ones that are simply the response to somebody else's need. It doesn't take long to realise that kindness really is something that counts because it can't be counted. There's a children's chorus published in 1979, used in schools and Sunday schools. I seem to remember our lads singing it when they were very young. It's sung to the tune of a French folk song. Jesus' hands were kind hands, doing good to all, healing pain and sickness, blessing children small, washing tired feet and saving those who fall. Jesus' hands were kind hands, doing good to all. Of course, people of faith don't have a monopoly on kindness. It's a deeply human attribute. But I would want to say part of what it means to be human, to be kind, is to be made in the image of God. When we are on the receiving end of an act of kindness, we are on the receiving end of that image of God from wherever it comes and from whomsoever it comes. And when we are the giver of kindness, we are showing that image of God within us. Kindness counts because it can't be counted. And our generous God is not really interested in that generosity being measured or counted. It's his love without limit, or to quote John Bunyan, grace abounding. Well, there are no shortage of examples of the antithesis of kindness, of hatred, abuse and greed in the world, our communities, and let's be honest, in our own lives too. A year ago today, the murder of George Floyd called attention to the wickedness of racism and the evils it portrays. There was nothing kind in what happened on the streets that day. It's easy to feel helpless in the face of such things, but the reality is that we are not helpless. Every act of kindness, however insignificant it may appear, is the demonstration of God's love in whose image we are made. And when there are really tough things to do, they can be transformed if done with kindness. Kindness counts because it can't be counted. I'm going to use that children's chorus as a prayer. Jesus' hands were kind hands, doing good to all, healing pain and sickness, blessing children small, washing tired feet and saving those who fall. Jesus' hands were kind hands, doing good to all. Amen. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.